After all, the dragons were too eye-catching and would be easily spotted by those below. The entire overseeing Heaven City was originally in chaos. Countless players arrived through transport arrays to suppress the 9 Hell Demons' army. However, when they arrived, they found that while most of overseeing Heaven City was in ruins, the 9 Hell Demons' army that had caused all this destruction had all disappeared through what seemed to be a transport array. By this time, Lufan and Ye Wuxian had already returned to the hostel where Han Ke and others were staying. Under Lufan's instructions, they stayed in one place to not get in the way of the 9 Hell Demon army and the 5 National Guardians. However, the entire overseeing Heaven City was in chaos, and their surroundings were no exception. In fact, perhaps the only ones who could remain calm in this whole chaotic mess were Han Ke and the others. During this time, Han Ke and the others heard the sounds of battle outside, knowing that it must have been caused by Lufan. Everyone had been worried about Lufan. After all, although he was strong, this was still the capital of Extremistus country. If he caused such a huge commotion, what if he was surrounded by Extremistus country players? Everyone finally relaxed when they saw Lufan return. When they saw Ye Wuxian return with Lufan, everyone was even more shocked. After all, no one expected to meet someone from Dragon Capital University in a foreign country. Lufan briefly explained why Ye Wuxian was here, and among everyone, Guhan was the most shocked. She naturally did not know that Ye Wuxian was the principal of Dragon Capital University. Now, seeing the principal's true appearance, her jaw nearly dropped. Previously, she could not have imagined that the mysterious Dragon Capital University principal was such a young and beautiful woman. Of course, speaking of youth, Lufan had even dared to ask Ye Wuxian about her age during their journey. As a result, he almost got kicked out of the sky by Ye Wuxian. Moreover, Ye Wuxian said that if Lufan dared to ask this question again, she would skewer him like a candied fruit with Heaven Incinerator. This threat completely killed off Lufan's desire to ask about Ye Wuxian's age, even though he still wanted to know. Since Ye Wuxian was the principal of Dragon Capital University and not an outsider, everyone already fully trusts her. It was perfect timing, as everyone had been killing and burning their way to overseeing Heaven City. If Ye Wuxian had not come, they might have had to continue wandering back home. Everyone had thoughts of returning home, so they obediently followed Ye Wuxian's orders and planned to return to the entrance of the Death Desert Ocean first, where they would pretend to await rescue by the Griffin Legion. Ye Wuxian created a transport array and took everyone back to the entrance of the Death Desert Ocean Dungeon instance. Here, there was not much difference from when they had left. For those allies who had died, Lufan had buried them before leaving and erected many unmarked tombstones made from locally sourced bones. When Guhan saw these people, who had been laughing and talking with her before, now lying here eternally here, her eyes became moist. Next, everyone stayed put and set up camp at the dungeon instance entrance, waiting for the Griffin Legion to arrive. In just a day and a half, the Griffin Legion arrived. Those who came to support Lufan were not members of the Griffin Legion from the far north, so Lufan did not recognize any of them. Still, it was a team led by a powerful gold wing medal holder, and the whole force consisted of 200 Griffin Legion members. This just showed how much Tu Jing valued Lufan. This gold wing holder was a middle-aged man with a strong aura. Not only was he a fourth profession player, but Lufan could sense his strength was not below Jin Qingxing. When this powerful and high-ranking gold wing medal holder approached Lufan, he gave Lufan a military salute as an equal and explained his purpose for being here. This scene might not have meant much to people like Jianying, who did not understand military customs, but it startled Ye Wuxian. After all, she knew that being saluted by a gold wing medal holder meant that the recipient must be of equal rank or higher. This means that Lufan was now also a gold wing medal holder. If anyone was to blame, it would be Zhao Shengming, who had reported Lufan's national trial results to Ye Wuxian, but forgot to mention that Lufan had been awarded a massive amount of military merits and got promoted to have a gold wing medal. Otherwise, Ye Wuxian would not have been caught by surprise. The gold wing medal holder acted swiftly and decisively. After meeting with Lufan's group, he immediately ordered his subordinates to create a transport array back to Dragon Country to cover Lufan's escape. The other end of this transport array was already directly positioned to Dragon Capital's military headquarters. After Lufan's group returned, people from the Dragon Capital military would escort Lufan back to Dragon Capital University together with the Griffin Legion. As for the rest of the journey, it was naturally uneventful. Meanwhile, the various disturbances in Extremistus country had already become international news. Many countries were paying attention to this matter, including Dragon Country, of course. Naturally, for most of Dragon Country, they were purely watching for entertainment. After all, this was not going to affect them, and the news was certainly interesting. Still, the most important thing was the news of their national hero, Lufan, whose fate remained unknown. After Lufan was escorted back to Dragon Capital by the Griffin Legion, reporters immediately reported this news, reassuring everyone who had been worried about Lufan. The content of the report naturally aligned with Lufan's version of events. The report stated that they had encountered attacks from heretical sects and had been hiding in the wilderness all this time, until members of the Griffin Legion and the principal of Dragon Capital University crossed the national borders and rescued them from the Divine Bone Forest. Although Lufan could not claim credit for disrupting Extremistus country, at least he was not granting them any leeway to lodge a complaint against him. After news spread of Lufan's rescue and return, Dragon Country's final worries had completely disappeared. The whole country celebrated, with festivities rivaling New Year celebrations. Lily, meanwhile, in a room at the western border, a handsome youth in a long robe put down the newspaper in his hand. His star-like eyebrows and sword-like eyes were full of mockery. So this is why Ye Wuxian chose not to fight, and was willing to have all of the Ye family's assets frozen, rather than negotiate the resource ownership rights with the merchants. I originally thought this was some delaying tactic to give her time to find help. But, it turns out, she went to Extremistus country to rescue someone. Since your Ye family can't find a backer, then my Lung family doesn't need to waste any more time. Do you think you can escape the Lung family's reckoning so easily? Someone come and relay my orders. Prepare a transport array to Dragon Capital for me. I'll be making a personal trip to Dragon Capital. A week had passed since Lufan and others had successfully returned to Dragon Country. During this week, Lufan, Han Ki, and others had basically stayed in Villa No 2, rarely going out and properly enjoying their time at home. Although they had Lufan with them while in Extremistus country, the women were still shaken by the experience. Staying in the villa for a few days to calm down did help with their mental state. Lufan naturally was not idling around, doing nothing. At noon, Hanki called everyone down for lunch. The meal was more abundant than usual, and they barely managed to fit everything after joining 2 dining tables together. After all, Lufan now had to feed 4 pet dragons, and just these 4 pet dragons' appetites were 2 or 3 times that of everyone else combined, except for Tao Xiaomin, who kept talking about wanting to lose weight, holding a plate of salad while browsing through the news on her tablet. According to her, with so many delicious dishes, it would be too difficult for her to hold back. She needed to distract herself with the tablet. Tao Xiaomin suddenly exclaimed as if discovering earth-shattering news. "Oh my God, this is incredible! Hey! Extremistus country has huge news again! The Jin family has been overthrown. Now, the Lu family has now seized national power, officially declaring themselves as the royal family. Wow! I'm witnessing history in the making. The Jin family has ruled over Extremistus country for so many years, yet they've been overthrown by the Lu family?" At these words, the other girls also became interested. After all, national power transitions were indeed major international events. However, Lufan was not too surprised by this. This outcome is expected. Last time, when we were in Extremistus country, we killed all the capable people in the Jin family. The entire main Jin family branch only has Jinju left. There is no one capable who can manage the situation. Additionally, when I controlled Jin Zexi to attack their towns, there were already rumors that the Jin family had fallen under the control of the heretical sects. At that point, they had already completely lost all public trust. With the Jin family teetering on the edge, they naturally would not have the power to continue ruling over Extremistus country. Being overthrown is to be expected. Tao Xiaomin tilted her head and said, "I know that, but this one thing is surprising. The Lu family was actually originally just a second-tier noble family in Extremistus country. I heard that after we returned, all 9 first-tier noble families in Extremistus country were secretly fighting for control. If you think about it, it is strange that the Lu family was the one that won out, since they are just a second-tier noble family. I wonder how they overturned the whole situation in just one short week. In Jianying said expressionlessly from the side. I heard that the Lu family had a very powerful fourth profession player appear, someone they had spent all their resources cultivating as their successor. After this person appeared, they consecutively defeated all the other noble families who wanted to compete for power, overwhelming the masses and helping the Lu family reach the peak of power. Really? Tao Xiaoman was surprised by this. I did see some posts saying that the Lu family had produced a top player, seemingly even more dominant than Jin Zexi. But these posts are all just talk. They don't even provide any pictures. So I thought people were just making things up. Even I'm not entirely sure if it's true, Jianying said. But I saw this news on the dark web along with some pictures. I do think this news is quite credible. Still, it's really hard to believe that a second-tier family from Extremistus country could produce such an expert. Li Lufan smiled and said, perhaps they're not from the Lu family, but someone supporting the Lu family's rise to power. Len, hearing Lufan's sudden comment, everyone's interest was piqued. Tao Xiaoman, especially fond of gossip, eagerly asked, Lufan, it seems like you know quite a bit of inside information, huh? Hey, spill the tea. What's the true identity of this player? You say this person is not from the Lu family, so why would this expert help them rise to power? And Lufan actually did not know much about it either, though he certainly knew more than Tao Xiaoman and the others. This was because Ye Wuxian had previously told him that Extremistus country's rulers would likely change soon. This process would inevitably be controlled by Extremistus country's hidden forces. Whoever was supported to take the Jin family's position would take it. This was not a surprise. Like now, although the Lu family was only a second-tier family, as long as they obediently followed orders, that was enough for these hidden forces. If what Lufan heard from Ye Wuxian was true, the hidden forces would have the ability to make the Lu family comparable to the Jin family in just a few years. These matters involved too much secrecy and Lufan knew very little. So he did not say much about this matter to the girls. He just said that senior sister had mentioned this matter before, so he knew some gossip. Tao Xiaoman had hoped to hear some unknown gossip, but hearing this, she immediately lost interest. However, the affairs of Extremistus country gave Lufan some other thoughts. And if Extremistus country has such powers in the shadows that could influence those perceived to be in power, does Dragon country, Star Strip country, Feather country, and other major countries not also have the same? Perhaps only Dragon country could give me an answer to this question. While Lufan was lost in thought, someone knocked on the door. I'll get it. Lufan grabbed a napkin to wipe his mouth and went to open the door. Opening the door, sure enough, it was senior sister, Ye Wuxian. She was not wearing her usual equipment. She had changed into casual sportswear, with a baseball cap. Her straight black hair was falling naturally, and she looked very young and beautiful. If someone said she was a second or third year, many would believe it. Senior sister, you've come at the perfect time. We're just having dinner, come in and try my auntie's cooking. Lufan smiled and extended an invitation. Although he knew Ye Wuxian was the principal, not just senior sister, Lufan had gotten used to calling her senior sister and could not change it that quickly. Furthermore, Ye Wuxian quite liked this title, so Lufan kept using it. Ye Wuxian grinned, her eyes sparkling. Oh, was my timing that impeccable? Then I won't be polite. But I'll have to trouble Sister Han to prepare another pair of chopsticks. Lufan glanced at her and said with a wry smile, Senior sister, you clearly came right during the time people have dinner, right? Why pretend you just happened to come? As a freeloader, have you no pride? Get out of my sight. Do I look like I am that kind of person? Ye Wuxian lightly punched Lufan with her fist, her face slightly pink. Lufan nodded seriously. Isn't that not the case? Speaking honestly, haven't you recently been coming here during mealtimes? Aye. The foodie Ye Wuxian had her little scheme mercilessly exposed by Lufan. She was immediately embarrassed. After stammering for a while, she turned her head away and said, "Look, I really didn't come to freeload today. It's just a coincidence that someone's looking for you right now, so I brought them over." "Looking for me? Who?" Lufan asked, puzzled. Wuxian looked behind her, and seeing a tall figure running over, she raised her chin in that direction and said, "Look, here they come." Lufan looked toward the figure and was both surprised and delighted. The person was very muscular. He was wearing rugged clothes and had a foreign face. When he ran over, he naturally attracted many glances from Dragon Capital University students. "Brother Lu, long time no see!" The person grinned, waving his hand when he saw Lufan. In fact, he even ran faster. In an instant, he arrived before Lufan, not the slightest bit out of breath. This showed how excellent his physical condition was. Lufan looked at Andre, who had come before him, extremely surprised. He heartily laughed and slapped Andre's shoulder, saying, "Brother, what brings you to Dragon Country? Seeing you at Dragon Capital University feels so surreal." Lufan's slap made Andre grimace as he rubbed his arm and said, "Brother Lu, be gentle. Though my endurance attribute isn't low, your strength attribute is too high. I can't take a slap like that." Sorry. I got too excited. Lufan scratched his head and smiled, then asked, "But back on topic, why are you here in Dragon Country?" Before Lufan could finish, Andre's nose twitched, his eyes gleaming. "It smells so good. Is this authentic Dragon Country cuisine?" After returning from the national trial, I tried many Dragon Country restaurants in Feather Country, but none could make dishes as delicious as your roast chicken. I've been craving it for a very long time. As he spoke, Andre stared intensely at Lufan. Lufan could not help but laugh, thinking Andre really made himself at home. Thus he said, "We're having lunch now. Want to come in and join us? Then I won't be polite." Andre was overjoyed and squeezed into the villa like an unleashed wild bull. Seeing this, Lufan quickly called out to his auntie inside, saying this was a friend he met during the national trial. He had also asked her to prepare another set of tableware. It seems Sister Han's cooking is really popular with many people. Wuxian smiled and also went in to join everyone for a meal. Lufan closed the door and walked in with Wuxian, quietly asking, "Senior sister, why did Andre come to Dragon Capital University? Is he here to study abroad? That shouldn't be right. Isn't he already 21 or 22 years old? He should be well past the age limit for an international student." Wuxian walked on while explaining, "Of course he's not here to study. He came here specifically to find you, to bring you some good news." "What good news?" Lufan puzzledly asked. Wuxian glanced at Lufan, flipped her wrist, and took something from her inventory. She handed it to Lufan, saying, "See for yourself." "Don't you think this counts as good news?"